Hey everyone, I'm back with another video. This video is about red flags and daycare. So I did make a video before, but with that video, a lot of videos I make, I'm just kind of throwing stuff out there that comes to me. But I try to, I'm starting to try to write things down just so I can cover everything, so I won't, so I have everything out there. So this video is about red flags in daycare. Um, the red flags, one of the red flags parents should pay attention to is how do your child act at drop off? Okay, I know a lot of parents say, oh, he's crying, he's just grumpy, or she's just cranky in the mornings. Do not ignore these red flags from your child. If your child is going to daycare every day and your child is sad or crying every time it drop off, um or your child just mood changes, say they're at home at night but then you take them to the daycare in the morning, all of a sudden they're quiet, and you try to tell them to go in your room and they don't want to go. This is a red flag. Please pay attention to your child. Do not ignore this red flag. If your child do not want to be a center, take them out. If your child is crying, also if your child is sad. Another thing is, and very important thing. If your child is sad but is not crying, or if your child used to cry and stopped crying, that could also not be a good thing. Because if your child don't want to be at the center, it could be something going on. The teacher could be saying, next time at drop off, if you're crying, you're gonna get in trouble. And so your child's, not crying because they know once they get in their room, they probably will get in trouble. So um, instead of them crying, they're sad. So this is a red flag number one. Always pay attention to your child. Don't just brush it off and say, oh, he's just cranky, she's just cranky, you know. So, next, no open door policy. If a daycare say, oh, you can only come in between 8 and 9 and 4 and 5 or 4 and 6, red flag number two. Every center should have open door policy. You should be able to walk in whenever you want to as a parent. It doesn't matter what time it is. You should be able to go in there, check on your child whenever you want to. There shouldn't be no closed doors or anything like that. Red flag number two. That's a big flag. Yeah. So, okay, so I would tell parents to, another thing as far as open door policy. I'm gonna throw this out there. I don't want any daycare workers to get mad at me. Open door policy is okay, but parents, do not come. If you have to come, pop in, it's okay, you know. But do not come popping in at nap time. Do not come and pop in at nap time and try to wake your child up or try to sit with your child, because this child is going to see you. And once you try to tiptoe out, this child's going to cry, this child's going to scream, and now everybody else is waking up. And now everybody else is crying. So you can go in, and that's at nap time. That's any time. You can go in, peek through the window at your child, see your child playing, but try not to disturb the flow of the room. Yes, go in, peek in, make sure your child is being treated well, make sure your child is having a good day, but do not try to disturb the room. Yes, I've had parents, I've had stories for days. I've had one parent that would come in, a dad years and years ago, and his son was asleep. He did this maybe once or twice. The baby was in a crib, sound asleep. Dad came, picked him up out his crib, and hey, buddy, hey. Then I'm like, well, now you woke every my like two or three of my other babies up. Now everybody's mad, now everybody's crying and you put them down and you leave. Now your child is cranky because he was asleep anyway. So just don't do that. Yeah, I know parents don't think about this stuff. Some of them do, but yeah, just kind of be considerate of the teachers. You go in, you can peek in, look through the window, and kind of stand back, and then tiptoe out, that type of stuff. But I think all parents should check on their child. I mean, you don't have to do it every single day, but I personally would do it at least twice a week. But um, so another thing is red flag. No toys. If you go to a center with no toys or no not learning much, all centers should have plenty of toys, plenty of books. I mean, if they're like regulated with DHR, because that's like a requirement. But certain things you should see. Um, a red flag is also if you go in and you don't see any like artwork from the children, no little coloring pages on the walls, and no type of things showing that a child was just having a good time, that's a red flag. Like if your child's there all day, what are they doing? What are your children doing if they're not? I mean, what are you paying for? Um, if your child's not learning much, if your child is in daycare Monday through Friday, say you have a 4-year old, your 4-year old should know how to count, should know the ABC, they should be practicing writing their names, they should know how to do all of this stuff. I'm not saying they should be a genius, but they should know something. They should be learning something. And if your child don't know anything, then that's a red flag. I mean, of course, you need to teach your child too. So, but other than what you're teaching them, they should know other things too. The school should piggyback off of you, or you should piggyback off of what they're learning in, at school. So if that's not happening, that's a red flag. Um, I personally feel like as a parent, my children are grown, but as a parent, I would not trust anyone 100% with my children. And I know people say, well, if you don't trust people, why you put them in daycare? But sometimes you don't have a choice. If a parent has to work, if you're a single parent or if you're married and you just can't really make it off of the one income, parents have to work. So that's, but when I say don't trust anybody, I think some people get too comfortable. They don't want to listen to kids. The kids tell them something, they kind of ignore them, and like listen to your child. Your child could be telling you something, but you're so comfortable with the child care teacher that you don't want to really pay your child any attention when your child could be telling you something bad, or you never know. Just trust your instincts and never just get too comfortable with anybody around your child. Also, answer ask your child open-ended questions about their day when you pick them up. Open-ended questions are questions like, how was your day? What did you do today? Questions that will lead to discussions. How was your teacher? Did your teacher not did, but how, like how or what, those type of questions. Kind of get a feel of how their day went, because if your child is at daycare for 8 hours a day and they did something, some kids may say, oh, I did nothing. Like, well, for 8 hours you did something. So talk to your child, and you should know what your child did the whole day, and you should hear from your child, not from your teacher, because teachers say, well, he had a really great day, when your child could have had a horrible day. So make sure you listen um to your child, talk to your child, so, but yeah, I'm trying to think of a lot of stuff to say. Like when you're in the car on your way home, I know some people like to play music, but just talk to your child for a few minutes, just ask them how that day went. Um, yeah, so red flags, if you think your child is afraid of a teacher, or your child act like they are afraid of a teacher, your child just haven't warmed up at a center that they have been at for a while. Maybe the first few days it's normal for a child to cry because it's a new environment. But if the child has been there and it's been 2 weeks and they're still, upset, especially an older child, and you should like look into that, because by 2 weeks they should be a little bit more comfortable in the setting. They shouldn't be still crying, about, they shouldn't still be crying, want mama. So yeah, so these are some red flags of the daycare. It's a lot more, trust me. Like, if a teacher never holding a baby in a room and the baby is just always on the floor, it's okay. I mean, it's good for the babies to be on the floor, but they should be held sometimes. I'm not saying they should hold a baby all day every day, because you can't hold all the babies all day, all day, but they should be held. They should be talked to. They should be cuddled, you know, and they should be read to. These are the infants. They should be read to, get them, play peekaboo and little games and that type of stuff. And and I mean, I know like daycare, they have different type of daycares. They have daycares where they're, fancy and they can afford a lot more things than they have the daycares that can afford certain things. But it's not really about what you can and can't afford. You could be a center where most of the parents are low income, but you can still be a good center. Money doesn't make a good center. Just because you can afford 1,000 toys, or, well, not you as a teacher, but as the if the daycare can afford, all this fancy stuff, it really matters. It just matters how the child is treated. The children should be treated well. The children should be happy. Um, so yeah, it's I think as a child I went to a summer program that wasn't good at a church. Um, when I was 7 years old, and something happened to me at that place, and so it put I felt very uncomfortable with daycare. I told people I would never send my children to daycare, and I hate that because my kids, um, they did go to a daycare one time. Well, they went once and they stayed for 1 month, and I pulled them out because I didn't trust the people. And the daycare was seemed very nice. It seemed like a very nice. I didn't get a bad vibe from them at all, but I just know like sometimes when a parent is not around, some adults can get very ignorant. And I noticed this from being a child myself at one time. So I do know that. So, but the best child care I went to was a lady when I was about, let me see, I guess I was about 8. I don't know. I can't remember. It was around the same time, only a year apart from when I went to this church daycare. I went to this church daycare, which was horrible, but that's a whole different story. And they were like, I have a whole story behind that. But I went to either that same, I think it was the next year, I went to a home daycare. And we were like older kids. It was a lady. She had a home daycare. She was married. She had her children. It was very nice. It was very nice. She was a nice lady. I don't remember her name. But we went there. Me and my brothers went there one summer. And she was very nice. We played, and it was a very nice center, and I felt comfortable there. So there are some nice centers out there. And I just hate that I had a bad experience, if I kind of told you the stuff that happened at that daycare with me as a child, people probably won't believe it. But yeah, so um, but anyway, these are things you should look at. As far as red flags, there are others. I would think of some other things to add, and I'll make a part 2 video of the red flags you should look at. But always pay attention to your child. Look at your child. Mood. That's the number one red flag is your child. If your child, you drop your child off and your child take off running in their classroom to be with their friends, that's a good flag. That means your child loves being at that center. And if they just take off running from you and just like, hey, Miss Harris or whatever his teacher name or her teacher name, then that's a good center. But if your child does the opposite, no. You may want to look into another daycare. But anyway, this is part two. No, this is part one. I would make a part two. And I would make a one for the good daycares. The green flags, I guess you want to call it. But anyway, all right.